you all. Let's talk today about brain retraining while having small children in the house. Hey, I'm Melissa with The Simple Life Wife, and I make videos on brain retraining and the goodness of God. I'm glad you're here. I have 3 small children and 1 on the way. I'm due in 1 week with my 4th. And my oldest just turned 7. The next one is 5.5. The next one is 3.5. When I started brain retraining, their ages were 5, 4, and 2. I had my first 2 really close together. They're basically a year apart. So my little boy is very close to turning 6. And so the question came up the other day in the comments, which I'm always so thankful when people ask questions. It gives me ideas of what I should make videos about too. But so the question is, how do you do brain retraining? Just some tips and stuff for when you have babies and kids at home, because brain retraining does take some time, and that's a great question. I usually defer to a lot of conversations I've had with another brain retraining friend, Kim, because she's also been in the thick of small children and having babies while brain retraining, so we've had these conversations. And so it's a little bit different when you have a baby versus little kids, but 2 things I'll start out with is kids are resilient and give yourself grace. So, and I really should add a third thing in there that I feel pretty strongly about when it comes to brain retraining is get a schedule for your visualizations, to make sure it happens. It's all going to depend on which program you do, what's required of you in the beginning. The program I did, limbic system rewire, which if you have questions about which program is best or whatever, I actually just made a video about that, and I can link that below. And they had a lot of videos you were supposed to watch right off the bat, and I don't know how many hours of videos that included, but it was a lot. It was a big time commitment. So there was that. There was workbook work, and I'm not putting any of it down. I'm just telling you what was involved with my program. Not to mention, you were added to this Facebook group that had lives a couple times a week, that were an hour long. I think that's right. It was either 2 or 3 times a week that you could get on live. And you could also just join into the Facebook talks, if you wanted to comment, you could follow that way. So there's all that. Plus, you're supposed to immediately start implementing visualizations. Not to mention you're learning tons of what you're supposed to do throughout the day. So they tell you, I think for my program, it was like every 2 hours you check in with your thoughts, things like that. There's a lot going on right at the beginning. You're learning a ton. And my program said visualize at least 30 minutes a day. Most programs say an hour a day, and they want you to start that right off the bat. So that's a lot going on when you are in the midst of chronic illness. Everyone has their own things, of course, that they're dealing with, but you join brain retraining because you're having issues. And so you're adding all that into a problematic life already. You need something fixed. So if you have small children added into all that, it really can seem like, can I even do this? So I totally get the question. So other programs may not have as much to do at the beginning, but you've got to learn how to brain retrain. So there's got to be some hours put in towards learning how to do it. So I'll just say right off the bat, my friend Kim mentioned when she started, actually, I think she's been like this. I don't know if this is her personality or she just knew she needed to do this right off the bat, which I think is awesome. She gave herself so much grace, So Grace is the first thing. Um, she didn't time her visualizations. I think she had a few set times during the day that she would tell herself she was going to go visualize, but she didn't time them. She didn't set a clock, which I did at the beginning. And she just would visualize, like when she first woke up, that was just one of her times. But she just visualized for as long as she felt like it. And she had an afternoon time, but she just visualized for, and sometimes she visualized for a lot longer than ever would have been required, but it's because it felt right. And so I think she is a really good example of intuition and not being held down by schedules. So um, while I tell you you should schedule in visualizations, I think it's good to remember grace on yourself. And she actually, I think, told herself, I'm not gonna, because she did the same program I did, she told herself, I'm not gonna join up with the lives or any of the Facebook stuff until I feel like I can handle it. At that time, she had a 4-year-old boy, I think, at the time, and she was pregnant. And so she just approached it totally different than I did. I tend to be a rule follower, and so I tried to do everything that was offered. So I would show up to all the lives, and I was so worn out, you know. It was just one of my things. But she told herself, "No, I'm not going to require that of myself." And I think she just let herself go through the videos as she was able. But she made sure that she had visualization times every day. And I think that is the smartest approach. If you do nothing from the very start of brain retraining, just get some visualization time in. It's going to be hard at first because you probably have brain fog. I fell asleep constantly when I was trying to visualize. You're going to have creative blocks because that's just where most people are in chronic illness. Just try to get something in at set times each day. I have 4 set times every day. I still do. And for me, I know, like I shoot for an hour every day. And for me, I actually really look forward to it. Some people don't, and I don't think I did in the beginning, but I figured out how to make it a really relaxing time. And to be honest, I heavily rely on guided visualizations. I do my own as well, but it can be tiresome for the brain to try to come up with new things constantly. So I do a lot of guided. I listen to guided, and it is very calming for me. So if we're going to get down to the scheduling part of it, I do 4 15-minute increments each day, and I have set times, and that is, my kids know that is my visualization time. And Kim says she's changed the language over to, okay, buddy, I'm going to go pray and visualize, because she does it 3 times a day, I think. So some people do it like 3 20-minute blocks. Again, have grace with yourself and don't be too regimented. It's okay if it's not timed exactly like 20 minutes. And some people do, I do 4 times of 15 minutes a day. And I used to do, because the program I was taught, they didn't say to break it up, but I found out that it's better to, because then you catch more of your blips more of your triggering moments, and you're able to calm them a lot better. I used to just do quiet while my kids were at quiet time or nap time, whatever stage they're at, you know. I would spend an hour trying to visualize, which is hard, really kind of hard to do an hour at a time, and I would always fall asleep. So I probably wasn't really getting an hour in. And I think it's like after 20 minutes, you're not really supposed to count the time anymore anyway, because your nervous system is calmed down, so it doesn't really count past 20 minutes. These are just things I've learned. So since I've been splitting it up into 4 times a day of 15-minute increments, I think brain retraining has been much more effective for me. So I do 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or sorry, not 12, 1. 10, 1, 4, and 8. I have reasons I do those times, and I'm not telling you have to do those times. I'm just giving you a very practical example of what someone does. I do 10, and I put a little show on for the kids for 15 minutes. It's okay. Kids are resilient. That's one of my points, remember? They can handle some time alone. They will learn that mommy has her visualization, or daddy visualization. And I'm talking from a stay-at-home perspective, so I don't know what people do that work. I really don't know. I don't know how they fit it in. That would be interesting if you have words of wisdom on that to put in the comments. If you are working, how to fit that in. So 10 o'clock is a nice break in the day when the kids are ready for a snack, and so I put a little show on for them, one that I know I can walk away from and feel good about, and they have 15 minutes of show while I go have 15 minutes of visualizing. And I love Kim's word verbiage of, I'm gonna go pray, you know, like Daniel did 3 times every day in the Bible. Everybody knew he prayed 3 times a day, like the bad guys knew. So I think that's a great example for your kids, because that's really what you're doing, is you're spending time with God, and you're calming. Even if it's not a Christian visualization that you're doing, you are spending time calming yourself down to trust God with your health issues. And at 1 is when my kids have their quiet time or nap time, depending on their age. And they do. I put them, if they don't have a nap, I put them in their own quiet spot, usually the room if you have enough rooms for all the kids, but if not, just give them their own quiet spot with, if they're a little bit older, with a box of toys that it's so good for kids' development too, to learn, and they need a mental break from all the stimulation. My kids love quiet time in nap time. They always have. Like, if I tell them we're not going to have quiet time, they get upset, because my 5-year-old son loves Legos, and he always makes some cool creation, and I hear my daughter singing in her room. It's her chance to be creative by herself and not have her brothers messing with her, and it's just actually a really good time for them too. So after lunch, we have quiet time. Okay, so then move on. 4 o'clock is another great snack and show time. It doesn't have to be snack and show. I can set them to Play-Doh for 15 minutes with some fun kids music, and I tell them, I'm going to my room to visualize. You all don't bother me right now. And they know that mommy needs that time. It's making a calmer mommy. And the reason for the 8 o'clock time period is because that's when their bedtime is. So it gives me a moment after they get in bed to just chill out and calm my nervous system down again. And that schedule has worked really good for me. Okay, so as far as babies, I thought I would mention, my friend Kim is all about Baby Wise. Have you heard of that book? And I hesitate to mention specific books and techniques and stuff, but this one is, so don't just write me off and unsubscribe from a channel because I mentioned a book that you don't agree with the parenting style of. Hear me out for a minute, and you don't have to follow it, but I just want to tell you why I mention it. So Baby Wise is a book that talks about getting your baby on a schedule, a feeding schedule, and a napping schedule. And there are a lot of benefits that can have. I'm not saying other techniques aren't good or the way you do it is not good. I'm not trying to say that. But from a chronic illness standpoint and trying to heal, there are benefits to doing it this way. My friend has dealt with chronic fatigue, and I have as well. And so you kind of tremble at the thought of having children, because you know that they're going to take some of your sleep, which you know how when you're in chronic illness, you need it. You need that sleep because you are fatigued. It's just a reality. And so She told me she started looking at her friends, and most people didn't have good sleepers for children. And so when she saw one that had good sleepers, she asked her, "What did you do? Because I need to know. I'm about to have a baby." And her friend pointed her to Baby Wise, and which made all the difference. My friend Kim has great sleepers. So actually, I didn't know Kim back when I had my first kid, but I also had chronic fatigue syndrome. And it was very important to me to be able to get rest at night. And I went through the same thing and came across Baby Wise in a very similar way. Because nobody had good sleepers at night. Like, it was a thing. Not even just their babies, but their kids were constantly up. They wouldn't stay in bed. They didn't have times that they would actually go to bed and wake up. I just thought, I can't do that. I've got to have my sleep. And so, in some ways, having a chronic illness pushes you to find a better way. That's how it was for both Kim and I. And I came across Baby Wise and I implemented it right away with my first one. And I will tell you, I have awesome sleepers, and I'm not bragging. I'm telling you, it just works if you follow the technique. And people that visit my house in the evenings or that watch my children, they're like, I can't believe how easily they go to bed and how long they sleep and they don't get up. Like, it's just a thing. So it's not that I have amazing children. I just followed a technique, okay? And you can do it too. And that works. But it's the same with babies. You don't implement it as soon as they're born, I think. I can't really remember. I'm trying to freshen up on all this stuff since I'm about to have a baby, but um, I think for the first couple months, you do kind of follow their needs. You always follow their needs, of course, but you don't get them on a schedule right away. I can't remember all the things. You'll have to go read it, rent it from the library, and you can see what you think. But anyway, so you can go rent Baby Wise and check out if getting your baby on a schedule might help you out to be able to have those visualization times. That's what I'm trying to get at here. To be able to have those set times every day that you can rely on, which is so important in the healing process. So in lieu of recommending having set times of visualizing to make sure you get it in, if you have a baby, you might consider getting them more on a schedule so that you can have those times to really look forward to and not feel completely frazzled and like your life is taken over by this little thing, because it does not have to be taken over. You're the parent, you can be in control. I'll just quickly mention that if you're wondering if you should start brain retraining because you don't know if you can afford the time, a practical thing is, if you're chronically sick, can you afford to heal? That's my thought. Like, yeah, you can. So you just got to figure it out and you'll start healing. Your children will start. I've mentioned before, I have a son with has had his own nervous system issues, I think because of how I've acted. Do you think your children are going to want a calmer mommy? Yeah, they will. So I think you can figure it out. Just have a lot of grace on yourself. You don't have to do everything all at once, and it will get easier with time. And you can learn more of all the, brain retraining stuff with time. The main thing is get started with visualizing right away. And it's not going to be perfect, but your children are resilient and they can learn and they will benefit greatly from mommy or daddy having a calmer nervous system. Okay, my heart goes out to you, parents, and don't be afraid to have kids because you have an amazing tool just knowing about brain retraining and how to calm your nervous system. So one of the things with me was I kept waiting to not be chronically ill anymore to have our fourth. And I realized that was a fear-based thing, and that was one of the things I had to give up. And praise the Lord, this tummy that you can't see that I'm about to give, this little baby in here is a testimony of how brain retraining can calm your fears and just help you trust God with these things too. He will take care of you, and it will be delightful to have children, even if up to this point you've been that crazy screaming mess of a tired thing, whatever, you know, and having to rely so much on other people. Can you make the time to brain train? I think you can, if you think about it in the right perspective. Like, can you make time to heal? I think you can. Just have lots and lots of grace on yourself, and your kids are going to be able to handle it just fine. I'll see you next time. Bye.